So we'll be solving May June 2024 paper 4.1 question number 2. This is an object-oriented question and looks quite simple. Let's start. So they're saying we have a computer program that will store data about trees. The user can enter the requirements for a tree and a suitable tree will be selected. The program is written using object-oriented. The details are given here. Write the code to declare the class tree and its constructor. Do not declare the methods. Use the appropriate constructor. All attributes must be private and you have to declare the attributes as well. Okay, so first of all, we make the class tree like this. Then they're saying just make the constructor, so define init, and here what do we do? So they're saying that it will initialize tree name, height, max height, width, and evergreen to its parametric values. So tn, then height growth, max height, max width, and evergreen. And then we'll initialize them to self dot dash dash. The name is tree name. This will be tn. Then we have self dot dash dash. This would be height growth is equal to hg. Then we have self dot dash dash. Max height is equal to mh. Then self dot dash dash. Max width is equal to mw. And then self dot dash dash evergreen is equal to ag. Okay, so these two dashes are telling that this is a private attribute, and then we just have to write the comments as well for their types. So this is a string, this is an integer, and then everything else below is also an integer, and then this is also a string. So that's it for the first part. Then in the second part, they're saying the get methods have to be written, so they will return the appropriate attribute. So we write define get tree name, then get the height growth, then get the height and get the maximum width, maximum height. So we've written all the getter methods here. Just one line. Okay, then they're saying in the next part you have to open the text file trees and which stores data about 9 trees. And then we have to go through the file. So the data in the tree is stored in the format this. So we have, okay, let's open the file. So this is the file. We have the tree data here. Then it says tree name, height, maximum height, width, and evergreen. So these are the properties: max height, max width, and then evergreen, yes or no. Okay. Then they're saying, so this is the first row. We have seen that the tree is a beech. It can grow this much. It is not evergreen. So when the value is low, that means it is not evergreen. It's going to lose its leaves. Okay, we have tried a function read data, which is going to create an array of type tree, read the data from the file, raises exception the file is not found, creates a new object of type tree for each tree in the file, appends each object to the array and returns the array. Okay, so this should be simple. So we go outside of our class. This is not part of the class, and then we will write define read data. So it will not take any parameters. Okay, so we have to create an array of type tree. So we'll do try and accept, and in the try method we will call it, let's say, the tree list, and it will be empty initially. Now we're going to open the file. So file is equal to open. The name of the file is trees.txt in read mode, and then we have to basically read each line. So every line is separated by a comma. All the details in one line are separated by comma. So let's just read all the lines. For line in F, print or item is equal to f dot strip to remove the spaces, and then print the item. And then we do file dot close like this, and then in the accept method we will write that file not error in processing file. Okay, so if I just run it till this point, if I create a main here, main, and if I say read data, okay, if I run it, let's see, it says error in processing data. All right, so we'll see what the error is. This should be line dot strip, my bad. Okay, here we go. We get all the data here. Okay. Now the question says that you have to create a new object of type tree. So how would the tree array look like now? So the tree list would look something like this. So tree list will dot append and will append an item here. Okay, how would the item look like? So the name of the class is tree, right? So this would be a tree object, and inside the tree object, it will have four properties, or actually 5 properties. Okay, so it will have some sort of the name, then width, then height, etc. Now we know that the data is stored in such a way that we get the values separated by a comma. So we'll have to split this, right? Until and unless we don't split the value, we won't be able to get the values out individually. So we need to split this on a comma, and then this would return you a list of values. So let's try to do that. So I'll comment this for now, and I'll instead say print item dot split by the comma, and let's see what happens. Yep. So this string would be converted into a list. Now we know index 0 is name, index 1 is width, height, and then evergreen. And this will be the same for all the trees. So what we can do is we can just simply go ahead, and now we can append the tree object into our tree list array with the following properties. Okay, so where would the name be stored? So let's call it properties, like this. And where would the name be stored? It would be at the first index of properties, index 0, right? Then we have the second property at index 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. How do I know this? Because it's clearly written 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 5 values. I'm going to append them all. If you don't want to do this in a single line, you can just do it above. You can just call it maybe tree object or something, and then you can just copy paste the line above. But it's just creating variables for no reason. You can do it like this, and then you can append the tree object here. So totally up to you, or you can just do it in one line. It's also fine. Okay, once we have done this, now if we, after we close the file, we print tree list just to see. The program has not just yet asked us to print anything. Okay, this is purely for the testing purposes, to see if the code that we've written till this point, does it work or not. Okay, so if I run it now, it prints a list of objects. Again, we cannot print the whole object, we have to go attribute by attribute, but I'm assuming that this will be working fine. So we'll proceed to the next part, and then we'll test it when the question says so. Okay, so we are done till this point. Then we are supposed to return the array as well. So we don't need to print it here. I'll just return the tree list here, and everything else is fine. All right. Then the question says that we move on to the next part. In part C, they're saying that there is going to be a procedure, print trees, which takes a tree object as a parameter. Okay. So we're going to write a new procedure, define print trees. It is going to take a tree object as a parameter. Okay, so let's literally name it tree object. Okay, and then again, what will tree object have? Tree object will have 5 of these properties. So, and outputs the tree's name, height, maximum height, width, and whether it is evergreen. The output message depends on whether it is evergreen. If it is evergreen, then this format. If it is not evergreen, then this format. All right, so we need to get the values out using the data given to us. So this tree object we have the getter methods. We have the height known, we have the max height, we have the max width, and we missed the evergreen. In fact, here get evergreen, and we get the evergreen value. So what we're going to do is, whatever object we get here, let's get the value of evergreen out. Evergreen is equal to tree object dot get evergreen. So this would be a tree object, something exactly like this, with 5 properties that we added into the array, and then we are checking if it is evergreen or not. So it will return true or false. The question is saying that if it is evergreen, then this would be the format. Okay, let's see what is the common string in both of them because they are quite similar. So tree name has a maximum height this, a minimum height width this, and grows this. Okay, this is the same for both, right? For the part above and for the part below. So I can just save it in one string instead of making two separate strings. So let's call it maybe initial message or message part one or whatever you want to call it. So message part one is, we'll use the format string. So we need to get all the properties out. So in fact, let's get the properties out. So let's call it P1, which would be tree object dot get tree name. Then property 2 would be get height, max width, and get evergreen. Okay, so we get all these properties out. So we can just keep it simple. Okay, so message part 1 would be if the property 1, which is the tree name, has a max height, which is in property 3, a max width is property number 4, and height growth is property number 2, centimeter a year, full stop and space, right? So this is the common message in both of them. Now, the only part that will change is it does not lose its leaves, it loses its leaves. So that is the part we have to check now. So we see if the property 5, which is evergreen, if it is true, we can either write it like this or we can just leave it there. If P5 is true, then what we're going to do is we're going to have the message part 2, which will say, or it would just be a string, it does not lose its leaves, like this. Else, if evergreen is false, then message part 2 would be it loses its leaves each year. So with this, we have the messages ready. Now what we need to do is we need to simply join them. So this is the part 1 and this is the part 2 message. So I'll just say, and then they're saying this is the output message of print message part 1 plus message part 2. That's it. So what will happen, this message will always be printed, and depending on the value of evergreen, it will either be this or this, and then we simply join them together because they're both strings, so we can use the plus operator. Okay, so print trees is done. Then they're saying in the main program called the read data, store the returned value. So read data, what will it do? Read data will return us a tree list. So let's call the return variable tree list. You can use any other name. Then it says, and calls print tree with the first object in the returned array. So then we have to use print trees, and in the print trees they're saying calls it with the first object of the returned array. Okay, the question says you are only going to pass one tree object. This tree list will contain many tree objects, so we are just going to pass the first one. So I'll write tree list index 0. So what will be at tree list index 0? We already know that it would be the beech tree that we saw. So this tree, beech tree with these properties, this would be sent into the print tree. So, and then they're saying write the code for main, and then we're going to test. Okay, so this is our output. Beech has a maximum height of 400, a maximum width of this, grows 30 centimeters here, it does not lose its leaves. Okay, a good idea would be to quickly cross check if that is the case. So I'll open the trees file. And beech has a maximum height of 400, yes. Maximum width 200, yes. And then beech is not evergreen, so it should be it does not lose its leaves. I think beech is evergreen, so the question said if it is evergreen, it does. Okay, so that's fine. So our code is looking perfectly. Again, this is going to be the output statement. You will take the output, the screenshot of the whole thing. You are not going to copy paste it in the evidence. Okay, output will always be screenshotted and put into the evidence file. Okay, good enough. Then it says now we have the final part here, hopefully. So part E says now you're going to write the procedure choose tree. Okay, so let's hide all of this now. Okay, define choose tree which will take an array of tree objects as a parameter. That array is tree list. This is where we're getting all the array from. The procedure prompts the user to input their requirements for a tree. The user needs to enter the height and the maximum width and whether they want the tree to be evergreen or not. A tree meets the requirements if the tree's maximum height is not more than the user input and width is not more than the user input and tree matches their evergreen input. The procedure creates a new array of all trees that meet all the requirements. The procedure calls print tree for each tree object that meets all the requirements. If there are no trees at all, and then the suitable message is output. Okay, so what is the question saying? So we basically have to input the properties of a tree and then we are going to check it against the stored values. So these are the trees that we have. So if somebody inputs a walnut and they say the maximum height it can grow is, let's say, 4,000. So that would be wrong because the maximum height here is 2,500. Similarly, if the maximum width is 1,000 and if somebody inputs 600, that is fine. But if somebody writes 6,000, that is wrong. If somebody says walnut is evergreen, that is again wrong because it says that it is not evergreen. So this is what we have to do. We have to input the properties and then we have to check. So we're going to ask the user to input the properties. So let's try the maximum height, the width, and the whether they want evergreen or not. And then based on that, so let's say if user says they want an evergreen tree, so we'll have these options that are yes, 4 of these. Then the user says that the maximum height should be at least maybe it should go up to 400. So we'll only have this Photinia plant here because the maximum height goes up to 400. Okay, so we're going to ask the user to input these. So max height is equal to int input enter maximum height. Okay, let's see if there's any range given to us. That is usually given in the start of the question. No, there are no ranges given. So it's an open-ended question. Okay, then they're saying enter maximum width. Okay, then they're saying whether they want the evergreen to be or not. So evergreen is equal to enter 1 for yes or 2 or no. The reason I'm going for 1 or 2 is because we don't have to check the uppercase or lowercase. It just keeps it simple. Okay, a tree meets the requirements if the maximum height is not more than the user inputs and maximum width is not, and then the tree matches their evergreen input. Okay, so what will we have in the tree list? First, let's see that. So tree list will contain an array like this, and that array will have multiple objects of the tree type like this, and then there would be another object, hazel. So let's keep these two objects here for the sake of our example. So if the maximum height you're inputting is 50, that means any tree that has a height of between 0 to 49 should be selected. So that is the first part. And then if you're selecting evergreen, let's make it yes. So we'll only select this tree that is supposed to be evergreen, or otherwise we'll select this one that is no. And how do we iterate through the whole array? We'll use the for loop. And how do I get this name out? We'll use the getter methods. Get name, get height, get tree growth, etc. So for just now, I'll comment this out. This is just for example purposes. Okay, so first of all, let's check evergreen because evergreen is supposed to be true or false. So if the user inputs okay, so if evergreen is equal to, if user inputs 1, then that means that the user should, in fact, we should validate this as well. So we should say, let's set evergreen to maybe 0. So while, because it will otherwise check only once, while evergreen is not equal to 1 and evergreen is not equal to 2. So then we'll ask the user to print and we'll say evergreen is equal to int input enter evergreen, enter 1 for evergreen or 2 for not evergreen, like this. This would be much better. it would validate the inputs. If user inputs 3, then that would not be allowed. Okay, then the question says that you have to check whether that we've done this. Okay, so here we'll put a condition, because again evergreen is stored in this format, no and yes. So if the user selected evergreen to be 1, then let's set the choice to yes. Else we'll set the choice to no. Again, because we are just mapping the values. If it is evergreen, it is supposed to be a yes. So I'm setting the choice to yes. Okay, now we move on. Now the question says that you have to find all the trees that meet the requirement, that the tree's requirement height is, maximum height is not more than the user's input. So that means, first of all, we are going to loop through the array for, let's say, tree in tree list, like this. What will this do? It will return you this whole object at once, then this object at once. And in order to get the values out of this object, you will need to use the getter methods. You will need to use getName to get this out. You will need to use .evergreen to get this out. Okay, so let's check now. So if the current trees get, what was the name? Get max height. Okay, it's get max height. Yes, get max height is less than or equal to the max height that we inputted, right? So if the max height we inputted, if the current height is, let's say, 500 and the max height input is 50, so this would be wrong, because it should be between 0 to 49. So we have to strictly check that we only are interested in these trees that have this much height or width. This would be the first condition. And then tree dot get max width is also less than or equal to the max width, same condition as the one before. And the third one, they said that the tree matches their evergreen input, and the tree's evergreen is equal to the evergreen that we are saying. So our evergreen would either be yes or no. In fact, this shouldn't be evergreen, this should be choice now, because choice now stores yes or no. Evergreen only had 1 or 2, and we have yes or no here. Okay, if all of these conditions are true, then they're saying that we are supposed to create a new array of all the tree objects that meet all the requirements. So let's create an updated list. Let's, inside this procedure, let's call it selected trees, maybe is equal to this, and then we'll say selected trees dot append the current tree method, the tree object. And then the procedure calls print trees for each tree object that meets all the requirements. If there are no trees that meet all the requirements, a suitable message is output. Okay, once the loop ends, once the whole thing ends, then we'll find the length of this array, which is the selected trees. If the length of it would be still be 0, if it is still empty, then that means there were no appropriate trees. So we check if the length of the selected trees was still equal to 0, then we are going to print no trees met the criteria. This would be our output message. Otherwise, they're saying, and now you have to call print trees for each of the tree objects. So we have all the new trees in the selected trees, and we just have to print their values by using the print trees. So what will happen on print trees? Print trees will get one tree object at a time. Now select it. So printing details of new of selected trees. So we'll pick one object at a time. So for, let's say, tree in selected trees. Again, what will this do? It will pick one object at a time. This object, then this object. So we have to just apply print trees on it. Print trees, what it will do? It will take one object at a time, and it will just output you the whole thing. So I'll just say print trees current tree. So what will happen? It will select the first object. Let's say it is this beech tree, and then we send this into the tree, and then this object goes in here, beech and all of that stuff. It gets copied here, and then it is outputted here like this. And then they are finally saying the procedure choose tree needs amending. After the procedure has output the list of trees that meets all the requirements, the procedure needs to take as input the name of one of the trees that the user would like to buy from these that meet all the requirements. Okay, so we need to modify it. Take as input the height of the tree when it is bought, calculate and output how many years it will take. Okay, so let's add it here. They're saying that we have to take the name as input now. Name is equal to input tree name. Then they are saying takes as input the height of the year in centimeter when it is bought. Okay, so let's call it initial height maybe is equal to enter initial height of when it is bought and calculate and output how many years it will take the tree to grow to its maximum height. For example, the user inputs the tree reach, the tree's height is 40. When bought, the tree will take 12 years to reach its maximum height. Okay, so then the question says that you have, after the procedure has output the list of trees that meets all the requirements, the procedure need to take the input of the name of one of the trees that the user would like to buy from those that meets the requirement. So we are going to go in the selected trees again. So this is the amendment part. Okay, so we should not be doing it here. We should be doing it here because at this point we have all the selected trees. So now we're going to write updated naming part or something. All right, naming algo. So we ask the user to input the name and then we ask the user to input the initial height. Okay, and then we're going to start take as input the height of the tree and calculate how many years it got. One of the trees that the user would like to buy from those that meets all the requirements. So we need to use a while loop. Okay, what if the user inputs a tree name that is not in the list? Let's say in the list we only have these three trees, Photinia, blue and green. What if I input red conifer? Red conifer does not exist, so it should not be allowed. So I'll use a while true. While true is simply an infinite loop, and we will break the loop once we actually get our correct values. So we input the initial height here. Okay, and then we are going to iterate through the array. So for tree in selected trees, I'm going to first check if the name is somewhere in the tree. Okay, so if the name that we're looking for is equal to tree.getName, if this exists at any point, only then I'll do some processing here. So I'll say some processing here, or I'm just writing pass here. Okay, this is just a placeholder, and then I'll break the loop. So breaking the loop would mean that we will instantly terminate the loop because we have found the details here, and then we also need to break the outer loop as well. Okay, this will break the inner loop, so we'll need to break the outer loop as well. Or you can just set a variable to valid outside. That would be even simpler. Or let's set it valid to false or true, etc. And then you can just change it here, and then that will do the same thing. Okay, so we can just break it here. All right. So for the tree in selected trees, if name is equal to the name that we're looking for, okay, then we check what is the height. So they're saying we'll input the height, initial height, and then they're saying how much time it would take. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll set a total to 0, total height to 0, and let's have a year count. So what we'll do is that we'll keep on incrementing our total height by the grown number, and then we keep on checking the counter. So we get the tree name, and once we get the tree name, we need to get the height growth, and that is already given to us in one of the properties, this height growth, get height growth. So I'll say that total height would be equal to total height plus the current trees get height growth, right? And yeah, and we keep on doing this until it reaches this height that until it reaches its maximum height, and we also have the maximum height here. So we'll keep on repeating this. So while the total height is less than or equal to the tree.getMax height, as long as that is not the case, we keep on totaling the value like this, and every step we will also add 1 year. So we'll say year count is equal to year count plus 1. What do I do? So let's say if I'm setting the total height, so total height wouldn't be set to 0 in this case. Total height should be the height growth, the initial height, the height growth. yes, this would be the tree's initial height. It should be initial height like this. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, let's say the initial height is set to 30 and then the growth is going to be 40. So this becomes 70, and then next time we add 30 and 70, so it becomes 100. Then we add 30, 40 again. So 70 plus 40, that is the change. So it becomes 110. Then we add 40, it becomes 150. Then we add 40, it becomes 190. We add 40, it becomes 230, or etc. And every time we are counting. So this was year 1, this was year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And we keep on doing this until it will eventually reach the maximum height, and then the loop would instantly end. That's the idea of this question. And we are setting the total height initially to the initial height, because we're not going to start it from 0. Year count would start from 0. And that's the point. And once we have done all of this, we are going to break our while loop. Otherwise, it will keep on going into infinite loop, right? So that's it. And then they're saying calculate and output how many years it would take. So once the while loop ends, we'll say print total years left, total years consume, total years to grow, comma, year count, like this. And then that's it. And we stop here. And then once this is done, they're saying write the program code to amend the main program to call trees. Okay, so we finally go back to the main, and then we're saying test your program with the following requirements. Choose trees. You have to call choose trees and test the program with the following tree requirements. Okay, so when we call choose trees, we're passing in the tree list. Okay, and we're going to run it with this stuff, and let's see. We also need to convert the values to integer here, so this should be integer. We forgot to do that before. So these properties are specifically mentioned that they're all numeric values. If we don't convert them, then there would be problem. File handling, everything is done in string format by default when we're handling the files.
And this would be the whole solution.